back to Cinema Corner. I'm Blake. I'm here with my co-hosts, Alex and Josh.
And welcome back to our regular series. I guess it's the only really regular series that we have going on the channel. Every month we review a movie that one of the other members assigns to us. This is Cinema Sins Volume 10. So yeah, I got Blake. Blake gave me Polar.
I
I
got
gave Monkey
yeah,
Man to Josh.
right, of course. Of course he did. We all remember that. And then Josh gave me
Remember that.
Hitman off of
I did.
Netflix.
I did. I remember that too.
Guys, not locked
Definitely.
in. Josh, go ahead. Give us your review then.
Okay, I will give it. Monkey Man. This is directed and starred by our boy from The Green Knight. So, however, I got nothing against him.
What's his name again, Josh?
Dave Patel, I think his name.
Okay.
Yep, that's
yeah.
right.
It just seemed like you were avoiding saying his actual name, so I just wondered. If
No.
you knew it.
I was leading more in the fact that going into this, I wasn't worried because he was involved. I was worried because of somebody else being involved, but they were only producing it.
Yeah.
And that's our boy, fellow boy that produced Nope as well. And but he was a producer, and I can proudly say that since he was a producer, you didn't feel his influence in this movie, and that's a good thing. That's a big plus, you know. Anyways, the movie. It starts off really slow, and I gotta say, I was getting worried by about, I would say, the 25-minute mark. I was thinking this movie's gonna be a failure, and it was scary times around it. It definitely was, I would say, insisting upon itself of it being just extra in the artistic element of the film. But the second half, what a comeback. What an absolute comeback story there. Second half combines everything together. Lovely, great action scenes. It definitely, I think, jokes about this. It makes a John Wick joke in the movie, but you can tell they really were trying their best to imitate John Wick's action scenes. A lot of it was long, kind of drawn shots. When it came to fight scenes, it was rare that you saw a cut in anything. Where this movie excelled at, I think, was the boxing scenes. There was only a few of them, but the boxing scenes were definitely top tier. That's when it got me probably the most hype, was when those scenes came up, and not actually even just like the nice shot, just long, just battle scenes in the second half. Anyways, what the movie is even about was basically why I was worried in the beginning is it goes on and on about the Monkey Man, basically. About this kind of god that reaches for the sun and gets punished by the gods. So it wasn't necessarily himself too much of a god, but gets drastically punished by said gods for reaching for the sun. And the story goes, this dude loses his mom, and that was where it lost some points for me because I'm just so done with the trope of dead mom, got mommy issues. And that kind of goes on. Basically, just kind of, it's a classic name. He rises it through the ranks to get revenge. So it's a revenge story mixed in with kind of similar to, the Green Knight, of it being kind of just mystical tale of this guy is destined for greatness in the end, or destined for an ending that he's going to reach no matter what, even if he shouldn't reach that ending. Kind of goes through it. What I didn't know was that it was more of actually also had a second story about the fact that it's kind of a rise in hate in India, because that's where the film is based, is in India. It's about just basically kind of just a fascist government coming to rise to power and discriminating against basically other religions, as well as transgenders was a big one. And so it's kind of weird. It has this mystical story, but also has a hard hitting, you can tell, that is a story that Dave Patel, I assume, wanted to tell, is about the issues going on in India. I think they handled it really well. It was nice. It definitely was a bonus in the story. So handling something that controversial and it being a bonus is a big deal. Um, Otherwise, it also led up to a fun scene where like the transgenders like start fighting and become like badasses and shit like that. So gotta say,
Okay.
yeah, um, yeah. Otherwise, I mean, it was a solid film. Um, I'll give it, I would say, 78 out of 100 is what I would rate it. So 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Yeah, solid. And not at all what I was expecting, but I think from the advertising of this film, that was their point of you had to just go into this not knowing anything other than the fact that there would be at least one boxing scene and that he would be wearing a monkey mask.
Cool. Awesome. Well, on the theme of like John Wick type of movies, I got Polar, as I said earlier. Blake assigned it to me, and this was a movie on Netflix. And Netflix made it, and it felt eerily similar to John Wick. I was like, interesting. Main protagonist who is, I guess in this case, he's about to retire. Obviously, John Wick was retired, and just mixed in with a whole lot more. How do I say it? They definitely leaned into the rated R-ness of it all. Whereas John Wick is mainly for the blood. This one has that. Don't get me wrong, but there's definitely a whole lot of nudity and a whole lot of extra stuff in the film that we're not going to touch too much on. But I do got to say, one of the antagonists, Cindy, good job in the film. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So basically, this guy, he's retiring in like 2 weeks, so he has 14 days. At the beginning of the film, there's this other guy in this assassin organization who had retired. All of a sudden, he gets shot, and he asks the team that killed him, why are you doing this? He's like, because you're retired, and they shoot him dead. So they're like, oh, okay, so you're pretty much set up from the start. They're gonna hunt this guy down. You just don't know like when they're gonna do it. It takes a little bit. We get some backstory with the guy. He has some trauma with a certain assassination attempt that he was tasked with, and that comes back later in the film. Basically, they fail epically. They go to his house. I think they tried once, failed. They go again to his house personally. They infiltrate it. Sydney comes into play there. She does some things with him. Basically, she sets him up, fails, she dies, and then he proceeds to just go full John Wick on all of them. But he does have a neighbor who's very important to the story. She's kind of like in and out of the story at the beginning of the film. Then once they like meet there at his house, try to kill him, that's when she really becomes important, because then there's like a secondary team that doesn't really show up to kill him, that takes her instead. So now it becomes like now I gotta save her mission. And he gets captured, tortured, kind of like how John Wick gets captured by the main guy in the first film. I was like, this is borrowing a lot from John Wick right now. He gets tortured for 4 days. So each day he does, like the main bad guy does something different. He just uses random fucking hardware tools and sticks it in his ribs and his hands and his face. And on the third day, he plucks his eye out. So once he escapes, he kills everybody. The fucking bad guy was a character. I mean, it's just say he was a character. He felt like best I could say, he felt like a mixture of the main bad guy from John Wick and like a Hunger Games character with like the hair. It felt very flamboyant, very, very out there. Don't know why they went that route, but whatever. Basically, he's a fucking rat. He runs away. He escapes. He goes. He heals up. Gets this cool eye patch. reminds me of like Snake from Metal Gear Solid. He's just like running around fucking killing everyone. And yeah, he pretty much gets ambushed, but instead he ambushes them with this fucking weird ass gun that he can just activate with his fists, mows down an entire army like nothing, and then he proceeds to hunt down the main guy. And then you think there's going to be another big fight at his mansion, at the headquarters. No, everybody on his security detail decides this ain't worth it. I'm fucking leaving. He pulls up to walking in there in slow motion, and everyone's like, yeah, he's upstairs. Yeah, he's right up there. Kills him. Chops his head off. All you see is his head fly through a window, and it land, and it's just right in front of the frame. I'm like, all right, so where's this going now? It ends with the main character. His name is Duncan. He was trying to teach his neighbor the whole time how to shoot. He was trying to be nice to her. Turns out she's a daughter of a hit list person that he was set to kill. He killed everyone. Her father, her mother, her brother, her sister, and I think even her unborn sister, because I think the wife was pregnant, and he left her alive. So this entire time he was sending money to her. He was kind of being her guardian angel, and she told him a story about how if she ever finds the person that killed her family, she would kill him. And then you finally get confronted with that at the end of the film, and you think, oh shit, this is the whole turn. He finally figures it out that she's the daughter that he's been, trying to protect. She has the gun to his head, and you would think, oh shit, she's about to kill him. You hear a gunshot, it fades to black, and it comes back, and they're both alive. So I'm like, what happened there? Don't know. It ends with her saying, you know who put out the hit on my family. He's like, no, but we can figure it out. And it ends. So, yeah, it was dope. I mean, the action was filmed like John Wick. I proceeded to go online and see what the reviews were. This movie is at an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I finished the movie thinking, all right, it wasn't like anything great or anything, but it was an 18%. Like, no way. It was fucking destroyed. 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.3 on IMDb. I was like, dude, holy shit, it wasn't that bad. But I mean, if I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like a 7.2 maybe. It's just above average. It felt like a average Netflix film that you just enjoy and shut your brain off for. But yeah, I was just hella confused with the ending mainly. But yeah.
Okay.
I watched it and I said, I guarantee Alex would like this movie, and I was right. So glad to know that.
So you're in the 18%.
No, I didn't think it was any. I definitely don't think it's 18. I mean, I don't remember what I rated it. I thought it was like,
That's
okay.
a big polarizing difference though from MDB and Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, 18 seems a bit crazy to me. But
Yeah. But
yeah,
I mean,
that seems
it was
insane.
like an average action. It was gory and shit. But I don't know. It wasn't anything special.
Yeah, so, both heavy action movies, and then we'll go to my movie, Hitman, off of Netflix, starring Glenn Powell. Obviously, it is a Hitman movie, but not quite, as it is actually about a guy acting as a hitman in order to catch people. Glenn Powell stars in this movie. It's interesting. He's allegedly he's supposed to be some dorky teacher. It's loosely based on a real story, they mention. But apparently he's supposed to be some dorky like psychology teacher at like a local school who ends up working with like the police and kind of ends up being like their undercover guy to catch people trying to hire a hitman, and then they get arrested. A little bit of a tough casting if you want this man to be a dorky loser who lives alone, has like this old Honda Civic and a cat, and then you cast Glenn Powell. That doesn't really add up. But you know, still they tried their best with
They
trying
try.
to make him. Yeah,
They
they
try.
tried to make him. They gave him a rough hairline and they tried to make him
Jorts.
seem dorky, but you can't. You just can't with Glenn Powell. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting. It definitely had some funny moments. Definitely a couple major things that I was thinking about because everybody knew, and he was going to the hearings afterwards of the people that he had set up. So it was like everybody in the surrounding area knew that he was the one dressing up as a hitman. So it was a little like questionable in that, like why would he give away his actual identity and go to the hearings as himself, and everybody knows it's him. So that was a little bit of like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyways, basically he goes in as a character. I don't remember this character's name, but this one is a more kind of confident in himself, basically more Glenn Powell type character to meet with a woman trying to get a hitman. And she's, you know, a relatively similar age woman as him who's very attractive, and she's saying she needs to kill her husband because he's just a horrible person. He feels sympathy, so he's like, whoa. As the cops are listening to the conversation, he kind of plays it to her to be like, oh, maybe you don't want to do this. Like, maybe things will change. Maybe you should try to get a divorce. Like, you know, you don't have to go down this road. And so she ends up to changing her mind and being like, yeah, I'm not going to hire you right now, whatever. So then, like, they're all like, yo, what happened in there? Like, we could hear, like, it seemed like you were trying to help her get off. And he's like, nah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Anyways, he ends up meeting up with her. They start dating as he's this character. And so the police are like, well, what's going on here? This is a bit weird that, you know, you let this woman off. And the guy that he kind of took his job is like, I don't like what's going on here. Why is he taking all my undercover roles? So he's going out with her, and then he ends up meeting up with the guy who took his job, and he sees them, and he's like, oh, it's kind of weird. He's like dressed up and talking different, not being his geeky self. He's like, whatever, man, see you later. And he sees him with the girl. And then they go out, ends up that her husband and them run into each other. They get into quite the altercation. And later on, the husband ends up dead. So he's like, whoa, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden the cops are like, hey, that client that you tried to meet with, her husband's dead. So what's going on? Because obviously you're a fake hitman and now he's dead. Did she hire a real hitman? Did she ever contact you? Did she do it? What's going on? And he's like, I don't know what's going on. So then it turns into a whole thing of him trying to figure out, like, who killed this lady? Or who killed her husband? Because it clearly wasn't me, because I'm not an actual hitman. And then she ends up telling him that she killed him, saying the stuff that he kind of told her when they were dating about, like, him acting like, because the whole time he continued to play this character of he's a hitman. So he would tell her some of the stuff that you would do to kill people to not get caught. And so she's like, oh, yeah, no, I killed him. I did everything you told me. And he's like, I'm not an actual hitman. I actually work for the cops. And she's like, oh, that's crazy. What do we do? And he's like, we'll figure this out. We'll find a way. They don't know anything yet. So then he's kind of like an inside man to try to like lead the investigation off of her. And so it kind of goes on. The one guy catches on and realizes like, oh, wait, you're dating this chick now as this character that you were dressed up as. So then they have a whole thing where he's he's like, all right, we need to get them off your back. So this scene was actually really cool. He shows up to her house while the cops are all listening in because he's like, oh, I'll go over there and act like I'm the hitman still and be like, yo, your husband's dead. Did you hire somebody? And blah, blah, blah. And so he like has his phone and he's like types out and tells her like what's going on. So she has to like read the phone to be like, see, it's like, oh, cops are listening. They think they know stuff, like act deny. So he's like typing on his phone, showing her stuff. And they're basically like acting out an entire scene with the cops listening and being like, yo, did you hire a hitman? Like, I didn't do this. And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. That scene was really cool just to see like the two of them, like him typing on his phone and like scrolling and like them acting to like get the cops thrown off their scent. So that was probably the most enjoyable scene to me. I thought that scene was fire. But anyways, the one cop kind of catches on, goes to the house. He goes back to her house. They end up deciding to kill that cop because he's onto them. So he's like, oh, all right, guess we're going to kill this cop and we're going to move forward. So that's kind of how the movie ends. They basically decide, yep, we're going to kill him and we're going to get married. And nobody's going to know what happened. We're just going to act like this guy killed himself because he's all mad that he lost his job and all this shit. So they kill him.
What the hell?
And then,
I mean, he was kind of a crooked cop.
He was.
Okay.
He was somewhat crooked. Not super, though. Not to the point where he deserved to die. He was just like, yo, You're getting a bunch of
Yes.
inheritance money because your husband's dead. I know that you killed him. We can't prove it, though. You guys give me some money. I won't tell anybody. And they decide instead, I'm going to drug him, and we're going to put a bag over his head and set it up like he committed suicide, and we're going to live happily ever after. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not at all how I thought that movie would go.
yeah, no, it was an interesting watch. Like I said, that scene was actually pretty fire of like them acting like out the whole thing just audibly about what's going on. That was cool. There's also a montage of him as different hitmen meeting with his clients, and he would like do research into his client that he was meeting with to like portray a hitman that he thinks they would connect with.
Mhm.
So there's some pretty funny little montages of that. Of one of them, he's literally basically acting like he's like fucking American Psycho Christian Bale. That scene was really funny of him like dressed up in the suit and the way he was talking. And there's somewhere he was like a super country like rant like. There's just a bunch of funny little montage moments of like the research
a
he did and
Russian
meeting with
one.
the clients. Yeah, there was a bunch of funny ones. So that scene was pretty funny too. But yeah, it definitely went in a direction I wasn't thinking it was going to go in. It was interesting. I don't think it was, it was a Netflix movie. So was it anything like incredible? Not really, but it definitely was still an enjoyable movie. Pretty solid rom-com, I guess you could say. It's somewhat of a rom. It's essentially. I saw a lot of people saying it was rated super high, wasn't it? I think. I thought I saw something like it was in the 90s for rating, which I was like, okay, that's a bit crazy. It was enjoyable, but like,
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes
Relax.
is a 95, and IMDb is
Yeah.
a 6.9.
Mm-hmm.
that's probably closer to what it is. But at the end of the day, it's Glenn Powell, so it deserves to be up there. So yeah, this movie was enjoyable. It was definitely a Netflix movie. And like I said, not anything crazy. No real known actors besides Glenn Powell, I would say for the most part. So
I mean,
yeah,
and the main
right.
actress.
who was she?
She's been in a few movies. I don't remember her name, but she's been in a few
Well,
movies.
Show me this, man.
What? Who is she?
She was in Andor. She was in Pacific Rim.
She's in Morbius.
She was in Morbius.
There
All right,
She was
so
in
that-
and
Pacific
she's
Rim.
apparently in that Blink Twice movie coming out soon with Channing Tatum.
Apparently in
She was in
Someone you know.
Pacific Rim.
Yep, Uprising. 20
Oh,
Uprising.
Uprising. So she was in the shitty one. She was in a shitty Disney movie or a shitty Disney Star Wars movie. She was in Morbius, another shitty comic book movie. So
Actually, it's a series.
she's a nobody. But yeah, I thought she was solid. If I had to rate this movie, probably like a 6.5. I think it was definitely something that was worth watching. Am I gonna rewatch it again? Probably not. Am I gonna recommend it to a bunch of people? Probably not. But it definitely has its moments where you probably could recommend if somebody's looking for just a new rom-com that's not totally like a romantical thing. It has a little bit more fun to it. Yeah, it was a pretty solid movie for the most part.
Good. I'll take that.
So yeah, that's our reviews for this one. So now, as always, we give the other person a new movie to watch. So I'll start it off with Josh this time. I have. I don't know if you've seen it. I know you hadn't seen it for a while because you've talked about you were gonna watch it and then you never do.
Yeah.
So have you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey yet?
I have not.
All
I
right.
have
Well,
not.
I know it's one that you keep saying
My
you're gonna
time-
watch at some point. You never
Time
do.
will come.
So we're finally gonna say, Josh, you've wanted to watch that movie. We're gonna force you to just finally do it.
I've successfully avoided spoilers for that movie for years and years.
Well, you're finally gonna get your chance to actually watch it.
Okay. All right, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this first one, I have no idea if you've seen it, but there's a 50-50 chance you have. Since you gave me a Jordan Peele movie, technically, I want to give you a Jordan Peele movie.
Okay.
Have you seen Nope?
I have seen Nope. Yes.
Okay.
The only one I haven't seen is the.
Nope, we're done with Jordan Peele.
No.
We're done. We're awful. I just was curious what your opinion was of that movie because I don't remember you ever saying what your opinion was of that movie.
I'm pretty sure we can look it up in the chat.
Maybe. Okay, anyways, the next one I'm going to give is one that I've recently saw. Blake has also have seen, I believe, recently as well, you said. Edge of 17. Have you seen that? Stars your girl.
No, I have not.
That is your movie.
Okay. Edge of 17.
Yes.
Got it. All right. I'm determined to give Blake at least a movie that he can enjoy. So I'm gonna give him a Netflix movie, so you don't have to pay for it. They Clone Tyrone.
What?
Guys, they cloned Tyrone.
Right.
John Boyega, Jamie
That's on my
Foxx.
list.
So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely have no idea what we're talking about. So yeah, going in unbelievably blind on this one. So
Good. That's good. I saw good things about it, so I was like, I'm just determined to give him a good movie once, just once.
all right, interesting. Well, that's gonna do for this video then. As always, if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.